It began, as these things often do, at a typical gathering of neighbors. You know the scene: disposable cups brimming with cheap wine, all these people pretending to be closer than they were, with some subtle competition to measure whose life had been most successful. When the talk swung to my husband, I didn't put much stock in it. Greg has always been a bit on the clumsy side, his words getting tangled or launching jokes that failed to hit their mark until the joke's moment had long passed. Yet I had always cherished his sense of humor, and he could always make me smile. And I loved him too for his integrity and the tireless work he put in to provide for our home. Greg, my husband, has always been a bit awkward around others. He often misspoke, and he would make jokes nobody understood until the opportune time was gone. Yes, I had rolled my eyes at him more than I'd like to admit. But that night, fueled by some extra Chardonnay and some gentle prompts from the crowd, I joined in. "We love Greg," someone declared, laughing a little. "But you know, he's a bit different." "Oh, you have no idea," I jumped in, without thinking first. "You should see him attempt home repairs. It's like a YouTube tutorial playing in reverse. Everything invariably gets worse." People chuckled, not just the courteous kind of laughter. How funny, but the genuine, heartfelt sort, which swells your ego and makes you feel like you are the most hilarious person in the room. And so I continued. "I swear, sometimes I think. Greg is secretly auditioning for America's Funniest Home Videos, like that time he tried fixing the garbage disposal and ended up flooding the kitchen. Classic Greg." By then, everyone was invested in the narrative. The men slapped their knees. The women nodded with understanding. I glanced over at Greg, standing at the grill, flipping burgers, his expression carefully masked. That should have been my cue to quit, but the laughter felt so good. "And don't even get me started on his sense of direction," I said with a smile. "Greg could get lost in his own driveway. He has an app now, supposed to help him, but he argues with it half the time. No, I know a better way. Spoiler, he doesn't." Another wave of laughter. Even Susan, the woman who had always acted superior since we moved in, was wiping away tears. For the first time, I felt like I was succeeding. Then Greg sat down. The spatula. I first assumed he was simply taking a break, but he came over to us, shoulders tight and his jaw clenched. Everyone went silent, and then he said, "Funny joke, eh?" His voice was calm and measured, yet there was a tone in it I'd never encountered before. You know, what's truly humorous? Living 15 years attempting to bring someone joy, only to find that you are a joke for the group? A profound silence fell. I tried to laugh it off. "Oh, come on." But I understood that he was actually gone. I thought of calling him, but then my pride won out. He was overreacting. It was all in jest. People tease their spouses all the time. This is what I told myself later, as I prepared coffee and looked out the window, working to convince myself that I wasn't a villain. But the truth kept gnawing at me. I could still see his face, hear the tremor in his voice when he said, 15 years. I couldn't say what hurt more, that he left or that I didn't realize this was approaching. In the morning, the messages started coming. First came Susan, the persistently inquisitive neighbor. "Hi, just touching base. Something seemed off yesterday. Hope you're doing okay." Then a message from Gigi. "Claire, I feel awful. Want to chat? Maybe have lunch?" Even Susan's husband, Doug, sent a message. "Greg's a great guy, I hope. You two work things out. Let me know if there is anything I can do." I'm certain they all meant well, but each message felt like a small spotlight on my failure. It was even worse when Susan texted again this time, with a picture. It was Greg, sitting alone in a cafe across town. "I saw this and thought of you. Maybe you should consider going to speak with him." I wanted to scream, to weep, or throw my phone through the air, but instead, I just stared at the photograph. Greg looked calm, perhaps humble, like a man who had already made a decision. By lunchtime, I paced around the living room, trying to understand how things had gone so wrong. We weren't the type of couple who published anniversary greetings on Facebook or called each other babe in public, but we had something solid, didn't we? I reflected on the last time we truly had a genuine conversation, not about day-to-day matters such as shopping lists or bills, but just talking. It had been months, maybe even longer, somewhere between the everyday routine and my habit of joking about him with friends. I had ceased to perceive Greg as someone capable of being devastated. And now, it turned out, I had identified his weakness. That day, I tried to call him. He didn't answer, so I texted, "Greg, I'm sorry. Let's talk?" No response. I waited an hour before sending another message. "I'm not doing well. I need to hear from you." Still nothing. By 4 p.m., the coffee pot was empty and my nerves were frayed. I began to search on Google things like what to do when your husband abandons you and how to save your marriage when you have ruined it. I landed on a forum for women in similar situations. Many of them appeared as lost as I was, except for a single comment that captured my attention. You cannot remedy the situation if they do not want you to, but you can demonstrate that you are willing to attempt. And so I did. First, I went to the coffee shop where Susan had seen him. I had no plan. I just thought that perhaps seeing him in person could help. But when I got there, he was gone. The barista told me he had left about an hour before and had not left a contact number or address. My next stop was his brother's home. Greg's brother, Connor, lived in a neighboring town and had always been the family mediator. If anyone could convince him to reconsider, it was Connor. But Connor didn't know where Greg was either. "What the hell happened, Claire?" he asked, arms crossed against the doorframe. "It was a stupid argument," I replied, my voice wavering. Actually, it wasn't. Even an argument. I was joking, and he became upset. Joking about what? I hesitated. Just nonsense, just teasing him, like everyone else does. Connor didn't smile. "You are not just anyone, Claire. You are his wife." That evening, I sat in our bedroom surrounded by mementos of him. His pillow, his clothing in the closet, the half-empty bottle of cologne on the dresser. Everything felt out of place, as if the house was holding its breath, waiting for him to return. I continued to dwell on the note. He left. The words, "You've made your feelings clear," were stuck in my head like a terrible melody. Had I truly made him feel that way? When at last I drifted off to sleep, I wasn't angry anymore, just frightened. Because deep down, I realized this wasn't a matter that could be resolved with an apology or a sentimental gesture. I had damaged something I didn't understand how to repair. By morning, I understood that I had to be honest. Greg wouldn't come back unless I gave him a reason to. I couldn't simply wait, hoping that he'd change his mind. Therefore, I swallowed my pride and drove to his office. I parked on the street, and it felt endless as I rehearsed what I'd say. But when I went in, his assistant informed me that he would be out all week. That's when I knew. He hadn't simply taken a break from our relationship. He had abandoned his entire life. A few days later, I received another letter. Not an email, not a text message, but a physical letter. "Claire, I'm staying with a friend, and I've had a chance to process events. I continually revisit that night, and it is more than just the jokes. I've understood that you stopped viewing me as your partner a while back. I can't say when it occurred, but it is evident. That is the case. I cannot be someone you ridicule to boost your own ego. I deserve better than that. And, to be candid, you do too. I have made the decision to file for divorce. It is not an easy decision, but I believe it's the right one. I am hoping we can settle this in a respectful manner. Take care, Greg." The finality of those words hit me hard. My initial instinct was to fight back, to implore, to resist. But deep down, I understood he was right. I had devoted so much time dwelling on his flaws and spilling my heart to others that I had forgotten what it truly meant to love someone wholeheartedly flaws and all. That night, I sat in my empty home and allowed myself to experience it all. The regret, the embarrassment, the anguish. I desired to hate him for surrendering, but I could not. Because if I was truthful, I was the one who gave up first. The divorce proceedings were swift and subdued. We didn't have children or a significant amount of property to divide, so there wasn't a lot to dispute. Greg relocated to a modest apartment in a nearby town, and I remained in the house. After a while, the neighbors stopped discussing it. Life carried on as it had before, however, from time to time. I would see Greg at the grocery store or driving past in his vehicle. He invariably appeared, at peace. Not exactly joyful, but serene. And I hated how painful it was to realize that he had found that peace. Without me. A year has passed, and I am still in the process of self-discovery. I'm seeing a therapist, trying to grasp what went wrong and how I allowed myself to turn into someone who did not value the person, who adored me more than anything. In truth, Greg's departure was a much-needed wake-up call. It caused me to challenge everything: how I perceive myself, how I treat the people I care for, and what I truly seek in a partnership. Do I miss him? Every single day. But I also know that he did the right thing. Because sometimes the only way to salvage yourself is to move on from someone who has already let you go.